Greetings, my friends, everybody. Welcome. This is Soul Empowerment. And today we are going to be talking about a real powerful topic. And it's interesting that this topic came up when it did, because I have my own class that I'm doing tomorrow, which is called Grateful at Last. And it's the final episode of that class. But we, in our conversation, came up with this idea of instant gratitude. And I think I saw this image in my mind of just, add water and stir, which used to be a pretty common phrase back when I was a kid. I remember instant this, instant that. It was always a case of add water and stir. Well, we thought about this. We had a pretty interesting conversation. And it turns out, people are used to the idea of instant gratification. And in fact, our culture nowadays seems to be encouraging us, to be expecting things to happen for us like instantly. I mean, even if you think about Amazon, for example, you got Amazon Prime. You can get first or 1 day delivery. It used to be 2 day delivery. Now it's 1 day delivery. And in some cases, you can get it in the same day. And I'm sure that, artificial intelligence being what it is, there will come a time when Amazon will deliver you what you need before you even know you need it. Talk about instant gratification. Well, anyway, we decided we were going to talk about this topic in a new way and see if we can, unravel it a little bit, find some way of understanding what it is that makes instant gratification so important to us, and maybe transform that instant gratification into what we're now calling instant gratitude. And if you think about it, that's quite a transformation. But before we go any further into the conversation, I'm going to give all of my partners and co-hosts an opportunity to introduce themselves, and I'm going to go through them in the order that I see them on my screen. And I'm going to go counterclockwise today. So the first one I see is Sarah. Good morning, Sarah, or good evening, I guess, for you. Welcome, and tell us a little bit about what you do and everything else that you think we need to hear right now.
Thank you. Yes, it is evening here in the UK. As I said, I'm in the UK. I'm a complementary health therapist, and people say, well, what does that mean? Well, I work with alternative modalities. I, in fact, work with energy healing. I love the energy of Reiki, but I also work with the energy of sound. And that sound is mostly for me the use of my voice in the form of toning. And it's something I love using. It has so much power and has so much effect on people. And it does. And especially when I use it and work with it with people's name. It is really powerful at helping people to reconnect with themselves at different levels. So, yes, I'm very much about helping people to heal their inner child and to step into bring themselves into the now, the wholeness of themselves, and learn to love themselves. So that's just a little bit about me.
Well, thank you and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And next up in my circular rotation here is Scott. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Scott Holmes. Much like Sarah, I'm a Reiki master and I love energy. When I'm working with clients in that energy, there's no place I'd rather be. It's not, for me, it's not like work. But engaging our clients to see things in a different perspective, to take and move the energy as it's stuck within them, to be able to see them transform, and deal a lot with fear. I'm sure all of us, when we deal with people, it's the fear that drives them, and to be able for them to see it, feel it, and then engage with it, and all of a sudden the fear becomes, instead of being taking up the whole room, it fits in the palm of your hand. And when you can fit your fears in the palm of your hand, you certainly can deal with it much easier. So in that respect, that's what it comes down to, very simply, in working with people. And I try to keep things as simple as possible in everything that I do so that everybody understands. And so for everybody out there listening, we can get very ethereal, um, but it all can be very, very practical in your everyday life.
Right, beautiful. Thank you, Scott. And of course, welcome as always. And last but by no means least, to my immediate right now, since I was going clockwise or counterclockwise, it's Gail Nowak. Please, Gail, introduce yourself. Tell us what you do and why you do it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. And the energy healers are in the house today. I love guiding emerging New Earth leaders to freely and openly express who they truly are so they can uplift humanity with their own unique magic. And I do that through speaking and retreats and private coaching. And really, I'm more about creating and holding a firm container of love for my clients and giving them the space to really go deep, into who they are, to be a safe space for support and healing past wounds, clearing energetic blocks, and shifting out of old patterns and into new possibilities. And I really wish that everyone in the world knew the benefits of this kind of work, knew the benefits of cultivating self-love, as Sarah spoke about, and self-empowerment and self-mastery. And it's no accident that all of us are here together, because I believe that we're all aligned with that kind of with those values and that kind of work. And personally, I really want to live in a world where people feel safe to show up authentically and powerfully, no matter what life brings. So that's what I'm all about. Oh, David, you're on mute.
Look at that, I'm muted. Maybe that's a better thing. Well, thank you, Gail, for being here. I appreciate your presence. And I just want to say, I didn't introduce myself at the beginning. I usually do that. But my name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach. And I work with people to help them uncover their limiting beliefs and dive deep down inside to find out the truth of who they really are. And one thing I noticed as I was listening to each of my co-hosts, there's a common thread here. And that is, well, first there were two threads that I noticed, but the first one was knowing who we really are. And that is something that I think all of us have done our own work on to come to a clearer understanding of who we really are. And we have also come to an understanding of how important that knowledge is, which is why we focus our attention on helping other people to learn how to do that for themselves. And the second thing that I noticed, I think every one of you mentioned this idea of, you may not have used the same word, but you talked about creating a safe space, creating a container, providing the opportunity for people to go deep. And, you know, some people who are listening to this on the recording or even here in person might be asking, what does that mean to go deep? And I think if you pay attention to our program, the Soul Empowerment, you'll discover that we talk about that every single time. It's just that we choose different specific topics to focus in on that. But the idea of going deep is that the true inner knowing of who we really are means that we have to peel away all the layers and all the, you know, the false personas, the masks, the costumes, everything that we create or put on in our world in order to show up the way we imagine other people want to see us, so that we can get down to the truth of who we are. And that requires inner work. And when we say going deep, we mean bringing our attention as deeply into ourselves as possible. So that's kind of my understanding, my interpretation of what we do. I see we have one person here on the show today live. Thank you for being here. That's Azar, I believe. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Please feel free to put your comments or questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to respond to those as we go. All right, so let's dive in, because here we are talking about instant gratitude. And I already mentioned at the top of the show that this came about because we had this notion of instant gratification. So I'm just going to pose those two concepts out there, and I'm just going to open the floor and let's have a conversation and see what comes up today. It might be the same as what we talked about before, and it might be something brand new. So, who feels called to? Thank you, Scott. Why don't you open the conversation today?
I'll open it up. So, when I tell my life story, I tell about being in a very, very, very dark place, and a counselor said, "You need to go to Al-Anon." I'm like, Al-Anon, really? So, the very first thing that happened when I walked into an Al-Anon meeting is they said, "We want you to tell us 3 things you're grateful for."
Before you go there, Scott, can you please, for people who don't know, can you just say what Al-Anon is?
If for those of you who've heard of AA, which is Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon is for those people who have been affected by alcohol, but are not necessarily alcohol dependent. And so it's about finding boundaries. It's about Al-Anon is about finding yourself, finding that way through all of the ups and downs that happen when you're living with dysfunction within the family, with an alcoholic or someone who is deep in their ism, if you will. Thank you for allowing me to express that. I was a long time member in going through there, but I was at a point in my life where I couldn't even be grateful. I couldn't think of 3 things I was grateful for. I had work, I had a family, I had kids. There was so much that I had in my life, but I was not grateful. I could not find that space in my heart. Bring it to today. In gratitude, I practiced every day. I still do that. When I go to sleep at night, I say thank you for the day. Thank you for everything that was in it. When I wake up in the morning, thank you for allowing me another day to be able to live this life. So gratitude brought me out of that very, very dark space. For me, gratitude is everything. And when we get to instant gratitude, what does that mean? Well, when we were talking, um, it's like Kool-Aid or Tang. You had it in a pouch and you zipped it and you put water in it, you mix it up, and you had a great drink, right? Well, the practice of gratitude, being able to be present when something happens and being grateful for it at the time, not looking back on it, not afterwards, but at that moment. For me, instant gratitude is being able to be present within your own life and being thankful for what is presented to you. And that for me, and gratitude is probably, besides unconditional love, gratitude is probably one of the biggest tools, the biggest for me in my journey to be able to understand where I was. Now, if somebody asks me, what are you grateful for? I could go on for an hour. There is so much in my life that I am grateful for.
Right. Yeah.
Thank
Thank you. Now, before I respond, I'm going to ask Gail to respond to what Scott said, or if you have some ideas of your own. What do you want to say about this?
Yeah, thank you, Scott, for sharing all of that. And I've had an interesting relationship with instant gratification and gratitude. Uh, I would say growing up, patience was definitely not one of my strengths. I am a recovering overachiever and had many instances in my youth and in my young adult and into middle age life of, hey, I'm making a decision, I'm going for it and getting the thing. So that was working from that approach to life was really working for me for a while until it stopped working for me. And then it really put me in this place. Funny how the universe works, right? And how our soul lets us know we're ready for growth. It really put me in this place of like, well, I did all the things and got all the things that I said that I wanted. Why am I not happy? And it really was a catalyst for starting that process of getting to know myself better and getting to really dig into, are those even the things that I as a soul even wanted? And some of them yes, and some of them maybe not so much. Maybe I was hooked into a certain narrative right? A cultural narrative or a family narrative. And when I had first heard about gratitude, I'm going to be completely honest, I was like, oh, that's so stupid. I was like, that is not going to work, and um, some of my co-hosts here know a little bit of my background. For those who are tuning in, I came from a, a dysfunctional and abusive family, so there was a lot of armor that I had, and there was a lot of healing that I needed to do, and a lot of skepticism. I was really not very trusting of a lot of different things, and then oddly trusting and naive about other things. But something about this gratitude thing like really ticked me off, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. That's fake. That's phony. That won't work. So like really full on in my ego about it. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure how I managed to put that aside long enough to start trying it. I think maybe that like that's also a part of my personality is that I'm curious and I will at least try things. Um, and generally that curiosity works out in my favor. So I started a gratitude practice. And this was during a time where things were not feeling very good in my life. And it really helped me at that time step more out of my past and kind of future tripping and get me in the present. And then I started to play with it a little bit more and even started to be grateful for the things that I considered um, unwanted. Um, or, if things didn't go the way that I wanted them to, I started to be grateful even for that. And that was really interesting, being grateful for the things that we have, and then also being grateful for when things don't work out the way that we want to work out. And something about that piece really opened up new possibilities for me because it got me out of this thought process of, oh, like I want the thing and I want it now and I didn't get it, so I must be wrong.
Mm, mm,
And it really introduced me to that concept of like sometimes, you think you want what you want and there's something better. I've had that happen. Or you're being protected and you don't know why. Sometimes you never know why. Sometimes you dodge a bullet, as we talked about when we were planning. And so I started to see more of that happening. And even to this day, like I continue a regular gratitude practice. And it has really helped me with my impatience. And it has really helped me get through some pretty intense and trying times. So that's how I understand kind of both ends of that spectrum of gratification and gratitude.
well, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And Sarah, I'd like to hear your perspective on these two dichotomous topics.
Well, to go back to sort of to what Gail said about the impatience, because the insecurities of my early years and not expecting anything to last, certainly not sort of relationships, friendships, sort of caring and not feeling loved, wanted, and all those sort of type of things. And so I was one of those people who wanted everything yesterday. I wasn't even impatient enough to say I want it now. It was like I wanted it yesterday. And that's how it was because I never expected things to last. And I think that was because of the way things happened in my life. And it was sort of after the broken jaw, the wake up call, and then the end of the marriage, and being given that opportunity to move and to be able to start afresh. I know I was accused of running away, but I really, and that was even before I started any of what I do now. But I thought, I'm not running away from anything. What I'm actually doing is stepping forward into my future. And I remember feeling really blessed. So if you want to use the word gratitude instead of, but I remember feeling really blessed. And that is all about feeling gratitude. It's just that that was the terminology I was using. And so I was then sort of, what could I give back? And so I felt, yes, I am very grateful that in spite of the fact I hadn't started this side of my life, if you like, there were understandings that came to me, and everything moved on. When I asked the universe, what can I do to support me? And then Reiki was brought to me. And I really do feel blessed that there was so much. And people kept talking about the gratitudes, etc. But I suppose without realizing it, I was already in that place. Because I did feel so lucky that things had gone the way they had. When I had taken the courage to take the step that took me out of a relationship I shouldn't be in, suddenly, now people could say, but actually your life was falling apart because I'd ended my marriage, then we all got told we were being made redundant because the company had been taken over. And it was just like, but actually that was all part and parcel of the gift the universe gave to help me move forward. And I think it is being in that place of gratitude. I don't think I really necessarily registered that at that time. But if you can bring yourself, yes, like you, I have what I do every day, morning and evening. I ask for the support, but I am grateful. There's that lovely sort of, it's like a little sort of cartoon thing, and it's somebody walking around heaven, and they've got this massive room, banks and banks of telephones with people answering them, and it's people asking God for support, the angels for support, whatever. I'm moving around too much, I'm going dark. And then they come to another little room, one single room with one phone in it and nobody manning it. And it's, well, what's this room? It's the room for people saying thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
It's the room for people saying thank you.
Yeah.
And one thing that is like, if you ask for support, say thank you as if you have already received it, because you have. And I think it's about the instant gratitude, the gratitude before you even receive. And then trusting you are going to receive what is right for you, not necessarily what you think is right for you.
Yeah, beautiful. And there's a lot of great wisdom here being just showing up as we speak. And I think when Scott was talking about not being able to list anything that he was grateful for back in the day, I was trying to imagine myself trying to think back, when was the first time I had a visceral experience of really being grateful? And the thought or the idea, the story, the incident, the event that comes to my mind. Now, I've shared with you before about the car accident that I had in 2013. Well, maybe I haven't shared this with you, but I had a previous car accident in 1979. I was also driving a red sports car. I also totaled the car. But that experience was quite different, and it was something that, I'll put it this way. As with many experiences of this nature, I was 100% in the present moment while it was happening. And that I can still remember that accident in 1979 as if it happened like 5 seconds ago. And what happened was there was a car coming the opposite direction, and he started drifting over into my lane, and I was trying to pull out of the way, but I didn't get out quite of the way far enough, and my left headlight clipped his left headlight, and I just went spinning upside down through a ditch, flipped up on a culvert on the other side of the ditch, and the car somehow turned around while it was still upside down. I can still remember watching this house go by the windshield upside down. I said, how'd that house get upside down? I can remember thinking that in my mind. And I'm actually rotating around, inverted, seeing this house go by. And eventually the car flipped over, came back facing the opposite direction, and the engine's still running. And somebody, now this is where it gets really, really quirky. Somebody came up to the right side of the car and said, "You okay?" I said, yeah, I seem to be fine. "Have you been drinking?" "Oh, I think I might have had one beer before I went out, but no, not really." Never saw that person again. That person did not write any kind of an incident report or anything. It was a very, very strange event, but I realized in that moment how close I had come to being snuffed out. And I remember, well, I guess it's not my time to go. I remember thinking that, and I remember thinking, I guess I've got something important to do, but I had no idea what it was. Well, I wish I could tell you that that was the big wake-up call for me. Sorry, it wasn't. In fact, I didn't even really appreciate the importance of that event until 25, 30 years later. In fact, once I had my second accident and I realized the similarities between the two situations, I thought, how daft can you be? How idiotic can you be? Still trying to live my life according to all the dictates of the world between those two accidents, still trying to do everything that I thought everybody else wanted me to do, and failing to pay attention to the truth of who I really am. That's what was going on. So I was seeking instant gratification in between those two events when I had two beautiful, amazing events of powerful, as Sarah would say, blessing and bliss and gratitude. We all have events like this in our lives. They may not be as earth-shattering as that, but we all have them. And the beauty of it is if we just pause and take a moment right now and just say, okay, what can I remember of my life that I'm really grateful for? How many people would wish for a car accident? Not many. I can't imagine that would be on anybody's instant gratification list. But I can tell you, it's definitely on my gratitude list. Because I was given two powerful opportunities in my life to wake up to the truth of who I am and to the understanding that I'm here for some big purpose that maybe I haven't quite fully understood yet. And that's where my practice comes in, just to kind of dive in and say, okay, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing now? Is this where I'm supposed to be? And so far, everything seems to be working the way I want it to. So it's amazing to me when we pause and just take the moment to come back to here and now. We can just be grateful for this moment, if nothing else. As Eckhart Tolle teaches us in his book, The Power of Now, when you get to that place, everything is perfect. There's no fear, there's no reason to worry about what's going on in the future because you're here right now. Everything about this moment right now is perfect. How can you not be grateful for that? And that is where instant gratitude comes in. Just get back to the present moment. Sorry, I went on a little long there, but you get my point. And I think what I shared, I'm sure all of you can resonate with on some level. So I'm going to shut up now.
So it's always said that if you don't learn the lesson, it will be repeated, whether in this life or the next. That until you learn that lesson, it comes back, and obviously it did. And that, much like Gail, yourself and Sarah, I think as we were younger, we wanted it now, didn't understand why we couldn't have it now. Um, and this generation, I see my grandchildren, and at 11 years old, they're ordering pizza on their own through an app and getting it delivered because they want it right then. They don't have to wait for anything. They don't drive, but they can get pizza like that. That instant gratification, and it's heightened to microseconds now instead of as we were growing up. It took a little longer than that. It might have taken 15 minutes. Um, so that gratification, that just it's like I want an ice cream sundae. Okay, here we go. I eat the ice cream sundae, and that was so good. I'm going to have another, and you have another, and then you said, "Wow, that wasn't as good as the first one, but I'll have another." It was taught to me by a social studies teacher way back then. It's a matter of satisfaction, not a matter of how much. It's a matter of satisfaction. The first time you have that ice cream sundae, it tastes amazing. The second one, third one, I think borders on gluttony, but it just that sense of satisfaction. And in the same way, being able to breathe in between our thoughts, being able to breathe in between how we speak, taking that moment. And in that moment, I find that's where the gratitude comes in. I find that's where compassion comes in. Because when I take that breath, there's that thought about how I'm going to say something, or I say it much, much softer to the other person, or I take into account the other person when I'm going to put that out there. So it's that very instant of gratitude, and I do that in breath, just and then speak. And it's a tool that I use with a lot of my clients, in that most people don't breathe, or they don't breathe well. Um, you anytime you do meditation, you say, okay, deep breath in and hold it, and deep breath out, right? But we don't do that through the course of the day. We don't take that breath. We don't wait. So, in my experience, that breath lends itself to being more compassionate, grateful, and saying things with love, rather than instantly just whatever comes to your mind. Much like Gail, I was brought up in a household where the more you could rank on your brothers and sisters, the better it was. More points you got. So it was constant back and forth, and you always picked on that thing that you knew would elicit the most response, the most vulnerable part. And for years, I would do that with people, not realizing how the harm. So now that doesn't come out. That part of me put down, cleaned, and now I only do that to lift people up rather than tear them down.
Beautiful. So Gail, I noticed you were writing there. Did you want to share something?
I know. I always have to put my thoughts down because I'll lose them all. Yeah. So I'm hearing a few things here. Because I know we talked about transformation, and you're transforming from the gratification to the gratitude. And what I heard in your story in particular, David, was something that I've been taught and I work with my clients on, is the sourced experience. And so this car accident, right, is a perfect example. Both car accidents, perfect example of the sourced experience. And we inevitably will get sourced experiences where we're not necessarily I don't want to say when we're not on the right path, but when we're not maybe as connected and in tune with our soul and our higher self. And we can also create sourced experiences for ourselves, and if you're working in the fields that we're working in for our clients. And something about actually knowing that this is kind of the way the universe works, we can maybe not have multiple ones of that experience, and really, like we're all saying, sit down and be present and reflect on, geez, I wonder why that, I wonder why that accident happen. I wonder what that was all about with that person who showed up and then vanished. Like, what is it that you want me to know about this experience? And so I love that you shared kind of like, I didn't get the message the first the first time around. And then it landed the second time around. And also just knowing that when you're starting to notice repeating patterns, like that's really that is something to be grateful for, because
Right.
it's the universe, it's your higher self, your soul, the universe, whatever, God, whatever you want to call it, communicating with you like, hey, pay attention to this. Right. And learning how to do that for yourself. We all have different ways of tuning in to that. But starting to learn how to do that for yourself is also very empowering. It helps you walk through life with less insecurity, with less fear, with more confidence, with more conviction, with the capacity to receive whatever is coming to you in life. So I wanted to speak a little bit to that sourced experience and how
Can I
that's
just
normal.
respond a little bit to that?
Yeah.
I wanted to finish this story because it's tied to it. So I'm not going to go into the details of my second accident, but I will say this: when my car came to rest in the second accident, I had a man come to the right side of the car, poke his head in, and say, "Hey, are you okay?" And I said, "Yep." Didn't ask me if I'd been drinking this time. Just, okay, cool, gone. Now, see, this is part of what I'm getting at. I didn't make the connection until even after that second accident. Like probably a couple of years, I started reflecting on both of these. And I believe the entity that came to visit me was the same entity in both cases. And I honestly don't believe it was human. I think it was some kind of an angel or something. Just maybe my guardian angel just checking in, making sure I'm okay. But not even really identifying himself. It felt like a man to me, but who knows? It may have been anything. But not identifying himself, not doing anything more than just saying, "Hey, are you okay?" That's it. So I wanted to bring that out because sometimes the people who show up in your life may not be what you think they are. They're here, they show up for a reason. Everybody that comes into your life has a purpose to help you wake up more to the truth of who you are. But if something like that happens, and I mean, all it took was 2 incidences. I don't want a third try. I don't want to figure this out again. Twice is enough. I got it. But thank you for mentioning that, Gail. I just wanted to complete that loop.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. I love that. I love when things like that happen. It's like the magic and the mystery of life.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then just the other thing that I wanted to share, just because I thought it was kind of funny. I know that this particular episode was kind of sparked by something that was happening with my 11-year-old at the time, who is now 12, and had a lot to do with instant gratification. And so, Scott, you were talking about breathing, and it made me think of her again, because she's always telling me to stop breathing, to stop breathing so heavy, mom. Because that breath really does, that deep breathing brings you back into the moment. Apparently, it's also annoying to my child, and
Right.
that's okay. I'm going to let it happen, because I totally hear you and get what you're saying, Scott, about how we connecting to our breath gets us out of our head, gets us into our body, gets us more aware of the environment that we're in. So I'm so glad that you shared that.
Sarah, I'd like to hear your perspective on this.
Unmuted, good. I'm going to actually sort of, the teaching of patience to me, because I obviously become very aware that I was ultra impatient to do with myself. And it was that introduction to the lady who became my Reiki master, because she was very, very specific about the teaching of Reiki. You could do your level 1, but it was a minimum 6 months before you could do your level 2. A minimum a year before you could go on after that and do your masters. And the teaching was all done totally separately, again with those spaces, a year minimum. And so it was teaching of patience. It wasn't I couldn't have it all. Actually, I didn't go to learn my Reiki 1 to do my 2 masters teach. I did my Reiki 1 because it was about me. And that really did support me in so many ways because I'd learnt it for me, so I used it for me. It was about me. Yes, because of things that she did to help raise funds for a children's charity called Julia's House. I got involved in that. And so I was working with the energy with other people. I also learned metamorphic technique, and there were things that very much supported me as well in that. But it did become about patience. And I really am so grateful for being taught the patience, for being taught to be detached from other people's outcomes. And to a certain degree, we have to be detached from our own outcomes. We try and control things in our own lives. But they are things that, how many times has something not occurred for us? And we have been so grateful afterwards because it hasn't, because something better has turned up. And I think it's really important to think, do I really want this right now? What if I wait 24 hours or even 12 hours? Will I still want this as much? And I'm very deliberately using the word want. Because I was very much brought up with, I wants don't get. But I was also brought up with, if you don't ask, you don't get. And it took me so many years to understand the difference. And I mean so many years to understand the difference. What are you choosing? What would you like? And the instant gratification side of things is almost the wanting, that desperation behind it. Whereas if we can be in that place of, am I really choosing this? Does this really feel right for me? Is there something better? Should I be eating that bar of chocolate? How good is it for me? Should I be drinking that last glass of wine? Is it really good for me? There are all sorts of things. Should I really be smoking that cigarette? Because I accept the fact, I admit I've got a chocolate addiction. It's dreadful. I admit it. And it's having to have that, it is having to have that strength to not buy it. Because if I've bought it, I've eaten it. But it's that patience. It's that giving it time. It's giving that space, that giving it that breath. And are we choosing it, or are we in a place of desperation and control? And it's thinking about what is going on inside of us. What is causing that? And being open to the fact that maybe allowing a delay, giving ourselves the chance to put a little bit of control and patience into the things in our lives. I don't know about you, all of you, I'm sure you've had those spells where you've been ultra busy, everything seems to be coming at you from all directions. And then you have real downtimes when nothing seems to be happening. And it is about having the patience in those times. But I believe the universe gives us a break. gives us the chance to, maybe there is something for us to do that we just haven't had the time to do. And it's being grateful for the busy times, and it is being so grateful for the times where we're given that relax, that chill, you actually haven't got to work quite so hard at the moment. There is a reason for this.
Right.
Recharge your batteries. It's coming.
Well, we could do a whole conversation on the subject of desires, wants, needs, preferences, addictions, all of those things, which are very, very closely tied to the subject of instant gratification. And yeah, I think that's a very, very interesting perspective. And I liked what you said about those who wants don't gets, or I'm not sure if I said that quite correctly, but I believe that's what you said. And yet at the same time, if you don't ask for it, you don't get it either. I think there's lots of things that I've gotten that I didn't ask for and I didn't particularly want, at least not consciously. But this is an interesting thing too to look at. You know how the law of attraction, there's a lot of talk about the law of attraction and how we can, just simply focus our attention on something and that will attract it into our lives. Well, that's just not true. The truth is, what we're truly focusing our attention on is what we're going to end up attracting, not what we think we're focusing our attention on. And that's the whole point about the law of attraction. So if I let's say I focus on, well, I actually was doing this for a while. I was really desiring to have a new airplane, my own personal private airplane. And I have the image of the airplane in my mind. I have myself sitting in the seats and I'm doing all this stuff. But the airplane hasn't shown up. It's been 2 years. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, what am I really believing underneath that? Well, the truth is, I don't really need an airplane. I don't need an airplane. That's just an extravagance that I want for some reason. Why? I like flying. Okay, big deal. The point I'm trying to make is when the true belief underneath is revealed, then that's the one that the universe is focusing on. It's not focusing on this chitter chatter in your mind. So we got to be really, really careful. So if something shows up that you maybe didn't want per se, you might want to look inside. How many people have a belief that, well, people who are rich are evil people? And meanwhile, in my mind, consciously, I'm thinking, man, I'd sure love to have a lot of money. Well, you've got conflicting beliefs going on there. Which one is the universe going to listen to? It's going to listen to the one that you most deeply believe. That's the one it's going to listen to. So if you have this belief that money is evil, then you're kind of pushing it away. You're saying you don't want money in your life. You see? So you've got to think carefully about, what am I really thinking? And by the way, those beliefs, those deeper ones, are closely related to who you really are. So in other words, you attract what you are. You don't necessarily attract what you think. So learn a little bit about the law of attraction and start to make it work for you. If you don't like the kind of belief systems that you're holding deep and close to your heart and soul, those are the ones that you need to change. And then you can start looking more deeply and say, well, why do I believe that in the first place? Why do I believe that money is evil? Well, because that's what we're told. Money is the root of all evil, they say. Well, that's not really what the truth is. The truth is that the love of money or the worship of money is the root of all evil. That's what they really mean. Money itself is it's like a hammer. It has a job to do. It has no intrinsic, quality other than it is capable of exchanging one form of energy for another. So we just need to wake up to the truth of who we really are and start emanating that truth everywhere we go. And I tell you, this is something else. Much as I say I would love to have an airplane or I'd love to have money, the fact of the matter is I have never gone without. In my entire life, no matter how bad things were in my life at the moment, I have never gone without food. I've never gone without shelter. I've always had the right kind of clothes to take care of myself. What more does anybody need? So, sorry, I've gone on another rant here. I just realized. So, my turn to shut up again.
All right, I feel like I want to piggyback off of that. I love that you bring up the law of attraction, David, because I feel like the mainstream version of it for those who are familiar with law of attraction and for those who maybe aren't familiar with it, the sort of soundbite is you attract what you think. And I love that you made a distinction about that, David. And I think that the other piece that gets lost in the mainstream version of it is that it focuses on manifestation only, and there's a piece of releasing in order to make room for the manifestation that is not talked about. And that's the place where you have to go deep. You have to let go of your perception of control. You have to let go of the how. You have to make the unconscious conscious, as I think that was Jung who said that, right? And so there's a level of shadow work, David. I know this is right up your alley, that needs to happen because there are those unconscious and subconscious patterns that drive us. And it's all about figuring out, okay, I may say that I want that jet, and exactly what you said, what do I actually believe about that kind of opulence or luxury? By the way, I have a very similar thing. I would love to have a private jet, only because I don't like to fly publicly.
There you go.
Right?
I
But
think that's a good reason.
I haven't received it, although I do live near an airport, so maybe I'm getting closer. That has private jets flying in and out. Anyway, all that to say is there are pieces here of really understanding what drives us on an unconscious and subconscious level. And that's not always easy for us to figure out, right? Because then our ego gets in the way, or we think that there's nothing wrong. And that's really, it can be helpful to work with somebody like David to do shadow work, or anybody that kind of specializes in that. And it's so interesting that this is coming up because I'm reading a book right now called Existential Kink. And it's really about not only getting acquainted, but really embracing those shadow aspects to be more integrated, so that when you're going into that manifesting state, you're actually a match for the vibration of what your soul is calling in.
Right.
Maybe not what
Can
your
you do me
ego's
a
calling in,
favor
but what
and
your soul is calling in.
put the
Yeah.
link to that book in the chat there, so
Yeah.
people who are
I just
interested in
started
that.
reading it, so I can't totally vouch for it, but so far so good.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Scott, I notice you're kind of getting animated there. I just wondered if you had something you wanted to say.
You know what I love about this panel is that we come at something from four different angles, and we say things using slightly different vocabulary, different verbiage, different nouns, pronouns, and verbs, and we all get to the same place relatively. Much like all the world's religions, no matter where you take them, they end up in the same place. And the more I find, David, especially when you were talking about, what your soul requires, what you when you realize what that is, need versus want. My needs are very simple. After my wife passed, I had this house that was full of stuff. She loved to collect. It was full of stuff, and I didn't. In order for me to function, I needed a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen, and I was fine. And I realized I didn't need a full house. I also didn't need the full freezer downstairs of, food that would last for another 10 years if we never bought any more food. That overabundance, that over just because it was the habit. It was, when you have kids and you have all of the needs and you don't adjust and you keep doing it, you have to kind of really reevaluate that. And I find that that's the same way with, it usually takes a traumatic event for especially guys, David. We've talked about this, um, in order to reevaluate your life, reevaluate what your needs are, what your real wants are, and what really feeds your soul. And so a lot of guys of a certain age will go to instant gratification. They buy the little red sports car, right? They go out drinking every night. They do all of these things, and in the end, they're miserable. It's that stepping back. It's that coming back into yourself. It's that finding yourself again and who you are. I often say I'm living my best 18-year-old life because now I can do it with money and I can actually do those things that I wanted to do when I was 18. Life got in the way. And what I found out is I really wanted to do those things. And I wish I'd done most of them through my entire adult life. But now that I'm getting toward that and that people say that retirement age, I find that I'm living better now than I ever have. I feel better now than I ever have. The physicality that I have, I put 30-year-olds to shame because of my energy, and I don't think of myself as strong or anything else, but they don't have the ability to do that. They don't have the desire to do that. So it's that life and curiosity. Gail, you brought this up. Curiosity is I think the most impactful part of this. When you're curious about things, when you want to know about things, for me, that's kind of that instant gratification where, you're trying to figure something out. And so you Google it. For me, Google is kind of instant gratification. I want to get an answer right now, but it's that curiosity thing. And that curiosity lends itself to healing. That curiosity lends itself to improve relations because you ask the question, you don't assume it. You want to look around the corner, you want to find out. And when you have all of that, you become much more grateful. The journeying that I've done, the traveling that I've done, to India and Far East and Europe, I really come back with that sense of gratitude that I was here, born here in the US. My quality of life is so much better than 75%, 80% of the world, that just simply because I was born here, I have that ability. And I am so grateful for all of those things. And just need versus want. I'd really like a really nice car. However, the car I have, the radio works, it starts every time I get in it, and I'm good. I really don't need more than that. It's a mode of transportation. So it's a matter of perception. It's a matter of how you view things and how you view your life. And when you view your life from that perspective, there is that gratitude that comes into it because you are so thankful that everything when you get up in the morning, is there for you. As you said, David, you have a place to live, you have shelter, you have food, you have all that. I have never wanted for any of that because I've worked my butt off and made sure that I did it for my family, and now I do for those people around me. And it's that for me is where the gratification and gratitude kind of join, because I'm thankful for them and can give to them.
Thank you for that, Scott. That's beautiful. And I know, Sarah, you have to leave here shortly, so I want to make sure you have a chance to say something before you depart.
Yes, before I vanish for my own program coming up shortly, I just want to sort of add, be grateful for all that you have. If there is something more that you would like, have you got room for it in your life? Maybe there are things it is better for you to let go to make the room. When you make a space, the universe will fill it. So think about what you have. Do you require it all? Be prepared to let some of it go, to make way for those other things. And some of those things could be things you didn't even realize you would like. But the universe will fill those gaps and then be grateful for it. So it is really important to make space for the new things that are waiting to come into our lives. And then be
Beautiful.
grateful for them. So thank you all. It's been a real pleasure as always. And I'll see you soon.
See you later, Sarah. Thank you for being here.
Take care.
And I just wanted to say, everybody, it's been an hour. We've talked about a lot of stuff here. We've touched on instant gratification. We've shown the value of gratitude, or maybe not shown it completely, but given you our perspective on that. And the invitation is to notice when you're caught in that space of instant gratification and ask yourself, is this really something I need? Is this really something I truly want in my life? And while you're in that space of asking that question, ask yourself, well, then what do I have right now that I'm really grateful for? And then in that process, you can start to become more grateful about what's going on in your life rather than expecting more to show up when you maybe don't really need it. I think that's what we're all here trying to say here. And as Sarah said before she left, opening up space for new blessings to arrive is a powerful process as well. And then expressing gratitude for those blessings even before they show up. That's really the secret. And remember, appreciation is the active process of saying thank you. Gratitude is what you feel when you sit in that space after you have done some appreciating. So allow gratitude to just be a part of your life. Dale, you anything final to say?
I feel like it's a good reminder for those who are tuning in to also remember that you're enough just as you are. I think sometimes we go to that gratification place to fill something up within us, or because we think that whatever that thing is going to elevate our status or our profile. It could be more surface level like that, or it could be filling something up within us that feels missing. And I just want you, if it's in that place, my invitation is to really sit with that and have compassion and get curious about, is this something that I'm wanting because I feel like there's something lacking within me? And to show gratitude for yourself.
Right.
Show gratitude for your body, for your heart, for your mind, for all the decisions that you've made up until this point, whether you think they're good, bad, or what have you. You are enough as you are.
Beautiful.
And we don't need more things or more we don't necessarily need more things and more money to give us that inner value.
Yeah, beautiful. Scott, final words. Got to close out here.
Yes, sir. Gail, that's hard to follow. That's only because you are so right. Everybody that we've talked to, why we are kind of speaking out and trying to elevate the entire world up. If they have happiness, if they have joy in their life, if they can find that joy, that thing that brings them joy, bliss, gratitude comes, unconditional love comes, compassion comes into their life. And now perspective. They may live in the same place, they may be with the same people, they may have the same job, but their perspective about it changes. And they have that appreciation and gratitude for it. I want to suggest that everybody just look deep, look into your life. It's all there. It's a matter of how you look at things. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Scott. So everybody, that's it for today. That's been a long, a little over an hour. I'm sorry it went a little over, but I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this. And remember, you can catch recordings of this and every other episode on my website at yourlifemasterycoach.com. So I am going to say love, light, and blessings to all of you. And we'll see you next time on Soul Empowerment. Bye-bye.
Bye.